that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different, even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body, because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, how lucky are you and me to be able to say that we are finally witnessing the last day of the second month of 2023. Today is 28th of February 2023. My name is Philomena Masco. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda. Today being the Tuesday. Things are really getting hot and serious, especially when it comes to non-compliance, when it comes to taxes. It's no wonder that Uganda Revenue Authority has decided to start a war, especially on those people that are not registered, especially when it comes to the mobile money financial agents. They've written a letter to the Bank of Uganda asking and compelling all commercial banks and all financial establishments that really deal in mobile money to have at least fully put out, because they really want to know who is paying taxes and who is not. And according to URA, they've realized and discovered that very many mobile money agents are actually not registered with the taxman, and they are looking at building their taxes and also the collections. They want them to go higher and higher, and they've decided to start on this. I don't know how this is going to end, but things are becoming tougher and tougher. Well, I don't know if any of my colleagues over here owns a mobile money business, but if they do, I am just really going to ensure that I find out and probably sell them out to Bank of Uganda or URA. I don't know. They won't tell me, but I'll find out. Well, I do have the whole crew here with me. Felix, I do have Molen and Robert Chirabo. This morning, it's a cold one, no rains, but probably we could be expecting rains later on. I don't know. Molen will be telling us more on that. Speaking of which, Molen, good morning.
Yes, a very good morning to you, and I want to say good morning, Uganda. Well, it looks like we're starting off quite okay. The not much rains for much of the country. However, it's not the same story for southwestern Uganda. Areas within that is Kabale and Mbara already having a few light showers coming through, and that might take on the entire morning. And also, we're not safe, especially for areas around Lake Victoria. That system is in the way, but we'll be looking at that in our weather forecast, which will come a bit later on. But Philomena, I'm also concerned. We're yet again seeing fires in schools. A very unfortunate event about the fire in a school in Chamate, where now police has come out to say that they suspect a student who had been suspended from school, and in retaliation he came and set you know, a building on fire, and he ran away. But it also poses a question of the disciplinary kind of actions that schools take. How far does it go? I mean, when we suspend a student, in that particular time, do they even inform parents? Are the parents aware? Because in my mind, I'm thinking maybe this particular student did not even make it home and was just, staging around to exert his revenge. And unfortunately, a student, one person died from this fire, and 3 others are still in critical conditions that were injured during the same incident. So you're looking at the collaboration between the school administration and the parents in an event that a student has been suspended from school. I think there's a missing link right there, because we need to avoid such cases of students coming back to revenge, or it could have been an attack on the teachers or anything. So I think we also need to step up in that arena. See that parents are brought on board, especially when we are carrying out disciplinary actions, and maybe that way we can prevent some of the students that could actually be having such characters. It's a very unfortunate thing.
It's very crazy. And initially, we kept tying all these fires, especially the ones that are a result of arson, to maybe neighboring people in the neighborhood and all of that. But if it's your very own students who have decided to get into this crime, then I mean that is really such a bad thing. And I think this is the second fire since the schools started off for term 1. It's very sad, and I don't want to say that I will be expecting more, but I don't know where this is going to go. Well, Felix, good morning.
Good morning, Philo.
How are you?
Oh, well, I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay.
What's with the black, man?
It's Black Tuesday.
What?
You
are naming days.
Less.
Okay. What else is coming?
Just you wait.
Black Tuesday makes it.
Just you wait.
Okay.
Yes. Initially we had Black Monday, but I have decided to shift it to Tuesday.
Do you remember Black Monday?
Yes, I do.
And what used to happen on Black Monday? But well, sometimes it's a good feeling to take a leave from all these hilarious political activities.
Yes.
The country seems a bit calmed without all these
but wasn't it for a good
campaigns.
Cause, though?
Well,
I mean, I think it was for corruption, if I remember well, Black Monday.
I wish the people who are behind
if my memory serves me right.
The people who organize these things, I think it was for accountability.
They were overwhelmed. The corruption really hit too much.
I remember those guys coming to university to try and recruit people from the law school and all these things. What politics will make people do anyway is quite funny. But you did talk about, Mullen rather did talk about the whole thing of punishments and the direct relationship of vandalism, sometimes even arson, as the case was. You realize in schools, this thing called punishment has been abused very, very many times. Like, I think in village schools they make kids dig. I've heard of such stories. I hear you do this backward of BMB. Then, but then there are those particular teachers, for them who make it, they even go like to the gym because they have to cane. Like, they are proud about it. We had some chiga who used to teach us chemistry. And for him, he used to brag about it. He would back over me don't know your pressure up. And the guy would and guess what? They beat you for what? Probably bad performance, even the smallest things. But in S3 you're like an adult. But anyway, black kids, if you don't beat them, you'll miss you'll miss the point, trust me. If you decide to treat them like the white kids are here, don't
and there are those, by the way, with mental issues. I think that is something that should also be addressed, because what else would drive a student like that to do to go that extra,
I think it's character. Sometimes
because
it's
first of all, he was actually suspended for bullying, meaning that it had gotten to that level where he was also attacking
others. Are you surprised a kid who's suspended for bullying would do that, actually?
So some of these actually need mental help than you just, chasing them. Maybe they also need to bring in the counseling aspect right there. Because now what is it?
It's very, very...
Counseling is a good approach, but it's also limited. But honestly, this thing of punishments in schools, I think needs to be well discussed. There is something we're missing.
We will create a day to actually discuss punishment, because this is not the only story I've had. There are other ridiculous stories I've had. The formats of punishment that are really implicated in schools. It's bad and sad. Well, Robert, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine. Thanking God and praising God for the gift of life. Of whatever is happening, well, we follow up, we talk, we hope there will be action. Now, regarding the fire that happened at Chamate Senior Secondary School in Tungamo District, this is fire 3 since the terms opened.
Fire 3.
Fire 3. And all of these are a result of arson. Because even when a student sets a dormitory, set 2 dormitories on fire, still it is arson. Because it's a fire that has been set ablaze by someone with some intention. So under criminality and police records, it's classified as arson. But I may not go into much of the discipline of the students, because actually these other fires, even the 1,105 that were recorded in the police report for last year, that were arson, they were not basically for students. For me, I want to look at how schools are prepared against such. That term has just opened, and if you have 3 cases, it shows there's lack of preparation. Remember, when we had the Budo fire, those that can recall, government of Uganda and Uganda police came up with guidelines to guard against these fires. Guess what happened? Very few schools bothered to implement these guidelines. Yet they were simple. A school must have a fence, and nobody can access that school except if they go through the gate.
Yes.
Schools have to have night watchmen. Now, what schools do, the afasha who is mingling posho during the day, at night puts on gumboots, some chifane coat, gets a stick or a big pipe, and is guarding. Afasha falls somewhere and sleeps till morning. They don't want to invest. A cleaner, casual workers during the day, at night are the guards.
Because automatically that person is very exhausted.
Very exhausted.
Yes.
They are going to sleep.
These activities are really
Issues
taking a
like
toll on
lightening.
them.
These were simple things. Let it be lit. Issues like ensuring that there is a student-teacher fire committee. What would this do? For such actions to be alert. Issues like avoiding triple deckers. Issues like dormitories having 2 exits, no burglar proofs. If you go back and analyze this very situation, children, most of them in these fires, die because they are running out and, they get suffocated. This one goes through the window. It has burglar proofs. You can't go through. So if you didn't make it to the door. So I think Ministry of Education and Sports, please do us a favor. Inspect these schools. These are our children we are paying so heavily. And the school owners have become gods and goddesses. They don't even allow parents. And we have nothing to do. But if the ministry you go, we'll be proud when you close schools until they rectify some of these issues. But who is going to save the parent? Simple things to save life, nothing is being done. Arson. Their schools are being run. Felix and Chirabo start a school. Felix is the headmaster, begins cheating Chirabo. Chirabo feels bad and says we all lose it. Workers are chased day in, day out. Students, all these. We can only implement this to guard against arson. Otherwise, I predict most schools are going to catch fire because of arson.
Yeah. And then, I mean, it comes from people that people know, probably around the neighborhood or people within the school premises, or even some of the school employees. So again, this is just a call of caution to all heads of schools. You need to understand the people you're working with, but you need to also make their working conditions more, much better than they already are. Well, it's Good Morning Uganda. We'll be going through our local stories and international stories as well. Robert, what's happening?
Well, we'll begin with the South Africa Business Forum, where His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, and Cyril Ramaphosa, who invited him for bilateral meeting, will be attending. Preparation for the South African Business Conference in South Africa are at a climax ahead of the opening ceremony, which will see the President of Uganda, His Excellency, attend to gather and seek more markets for Ugandans and opportunities that are there for Ugandans in South Africa and Ugandans back home.
Now, Uganda police recovered 10 guns in 1 week, and out of which 6 were from Karamoja, 3 from Chebando, and 1 was from Gulu. These operations by the joint security agencies led to the arrests of 2 suspects, and 7 Karamoja warriors were killed.
Moving on, the Directorate of Traffic Police has recommended the removal of 2 wheels on Northern Bypass. This follows an increase in road crashes as per the 2022 traffic report by 17%. The report also recommends redesigning of transport infrastructure in urban areas.
Now, the Parliamentary Committee on Presidential Affairs has initiated investigations into the controversial iron sheet bonanza, which has since put top government officials on the tenterhooks. Now, despite the intended censure motion by MP hailing from Karamoja against the Minister of Karamoja Affairs, Mary Goreti Chitutu, the Presidential Affairs Committee was directed by Speaker of Parliament to investigate the iron sheet saga. It is alleged that top ministers shared on iron sheets which were meant to support the disarmament exercise in Karamoja region.
Well, crossing over to the international stories, Israel settlers have carried out at least 300 attacks, including shootings and arson in a rampage through Palestinian villages in the Nablus area of the occupied West Bank, Palestinian officials say, in what has been described as a pogrom. Now, a 37-year-old Palestinian man identified as Sami al-Aktash was shot in the stomach on Sunday night by settlers protected by the Israel army in the village of Zatara, south of Nablus. He died of his injuries. The father of 5 returned home 5 days ago after volunteering to help earthquake survivors back in Turkey. At least 390 Palestinians were injured in the settler rampage across the villages of Huwara, Zatara, Burin, and Asira al-Qiblia, all south of Nablus, the Palestinian Red Crescent said, adding that the majority were wounded from tear gas fired by the Israel army, as well as smoke inhalation from widespread fires set by the settlers. The United States has asked Mexico to extradite a powerful son of jailed drug lord Joaquin Guzman, better known as El Chapo, who is accused of drugs crimes, a Mexican government spokesperson has said. Ovidio Guzman, captured in January, has allegedly helped to run the infamous Sinaloa cartel since his father was handed over to authorities in the U.S. back in 2017. The U.S. Embassy in Mexico City presented the extradition request to the Foreign Ministry and Attorney General's office. The spokesperson said he did not want to be named because he was not authorized to speak on the issue. Now, 2 unnamed Mexican government sources also confirmed the extradition request for 32-year-old Ovidio Guzman to the Reuters news agency. The younger Guzman was captured near the city of Culiacan in northern Sinaloa state, triggering a wave of violence that left dozens of people dead.
A few days after Nigerians voted in presidential and parliamentary elections, they are growing anxiety over the slow collation of results by the Independent National Electoral Commission. The process entered its second day on Monday without a prospective winner in sight, as Nigerians wait with bated breath to see who succeeds President Muhammadu Buhari, whose 8-year rule at the head of Africa's biggest democracy is ending. There are 3 main contenders in the race for the presidency: veteran politician Bola Tinubu of the ruling All Progressive Congress Party and former Vice President Atiku Abubakar from the main opposition People's Democratic Party, and Peter Obi, a third-party challenger from the Labour Party. Now, there is also a wildcard candidate, Rabiu Kwankwaso of the New Nigerian People's Party. Now in climate news, could mimicking volcanoes fix the climate crisis? At the opposite ends of Southeast Asia, researchers Ponnampai Naripitka and Hari Kuswanto are both working on the same problem. Is it possible to mimic the cooling effect of volcanic eruption to halt global warming? Now, using computer modeling and analysis, Naren Pitak and Kuswanto are separately studying whether shooting large quantities of sulfur dioxide into the Earth's stratosphere could have similar effect on global temperatures as the eruption of the Indonesia's Mount Tambora in 1850. The eruption was the most powerful in recorded history, spewed an estimate of 150 cubic kilometers, that is 150,000 gigaliters of exploded rock and ash into the air, causing global temperatures to fall as much as 3 degrees Celsius in what became known as a year without summer. Stratospheric aerosol injection is among a number of nascent and controversial technologies in the field of solar geoengineering that has been thought as potential solution to mitigating the effects of climate change.
Well, we are still looking at the big stories. Of course, we cannot miss the big stories in our papers as well. Our dailies, the New Vision and the Daily Monitor. Starting off with the New Vision, why I used OPM iron sheets on my farm, Minister. Well, you can get the full story in the New Vision this morning. And the only problem is the iron sheets were labeled, says Lugolovi. District service commissioners to get 18 million Uganda shillings salary, and Uganda on alert over new mosquito species. And of course, looking at her vision, meet 29-year-old mother of 93 former street kids, and government orders school employees to register. That in the New Vision, the Daily Monitor. Felix.
Now officials shared iron sheets on WhatsApp and city speakers protest over detention of NUP supporters, and also still looking at the Daily Monitor, check inside for best deals from top companies. Now Mutebi's role in killing local banks, Mutebi's role in killing local banks and cheap credit, and counting the cost of smuggled goods. That's what's in the Daily Monitor.
Very, very interesting. If you've never really gotten a paper, maybe today you need to grab yourself some of these copies and see what's happening. But before we go in, at least I know that Robert here has the gospel, something that will make us feel better about ourselves and our country, at least this morning. Please, Robert.
Take hallelujah. Take hallelujah. It is an immune booster. Just 1,500. Take hallelujah.
All right. Well, we're going for a break, and when we get back, we'll be having some more interesting conversations this morning. So be ready to be part of them by getting onto all our social media platforms, Twitter and our WhatsApp number. Unlike the rest, we will actually get that feedback and we'll share it with the rest of our Good Morning Uganda family. We'll be back shortly.
Is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia.
Well, how lucky are you and me to be able to say that we are finally witnessing the last day of the second month of 2023. Today is 28th of February 2023. My name is Philomena Masco. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda. Today being the Tuesday. Things are really getting hot and serious, especially when it comes to non-compliance, when it comes to taxes. It's no wonder that Uganda Revenue Authority has decided to start a war, especially on those people that are not registered, especially when it comes to the mobile money financial agents. They've written a letter to the Bank of Uganda asking and compelling all commercial banks and all financial establishments that really deal in mobile money to have at least fully put out, because they really want to know who is paying taxes and who is not. And according to URA, they've realized and discovered that very many mobile money agents are actually not registered with the taxman, and they are looking at building their taxes and also the collections. They want them to go higher and higher, and they've decided to start on this. I don't know how this is going to end, but things are becoming tougher and tougher. Well, I don't know if any of my colleagues over here owns a mobile money business, but if they do, I am just really going to ensure that I find out and probably sell them out to Bank of Uganda or URA. I don't know. They won't tell me, but I'll find out. Well, I do have the whole crew here with me. Felix, I do have Molen and Robert Chirabo. This morning, it's a cold one, no rains, but probably we could be expecting rains later on. I don't know. Molen will be telling us more on that. Speaking of which, Molen, good morning.
Yes, a very good morning to you, and I want to say good morning, Uganda. Well, it looks like we're starting off quite okay. The not much rains for much of the country. However, it's not the same story for southwestern Uganda. Areas within that is Kabale and Mbara already having a few light showers coming through, and that might take on the entire morning. And also, we're not safe, especially for areas around Lake Victoria. That system is in the way, but we'll be looking at that in our weather forecast, which will come a bit later on. But Philomena, I'm also concerned. We're yet again seeing fires in schools. A very unfortunate event about the fire in a school in Chamate, where now police has come out to say that they suspect a student who had been suspended from school, and in retaliation he came and set you know, a building on fire, and he ran away. But it also poses a question of the disciplinary kind of actions that schools take. How far does it go? I mean, when we suspend a student in that particular time, do they even inform parents? Are the parents aware? Because in my mind, I'm thinking maybe this particular student did not even make it home and was just, you know, staging around to exert his revenge. And unfortunately, a student, one person died from this fire, and 3 others are still in critical conditions that were injured during the same incident. So you're looking at the collaboration between the school administration and the parents in an event that a student has been suspended from school. I think that there's a missing link right there, because we need to avoid such cases.
150,000 shillings only! Yes! 150,000 shillings only to keep you connected to your loved ones. Dial *175*94# to activate free 1 GB instantly and 100% double data on all weekly and monthly bundles for 3 months. Get one today while stock lasts from the nearest Airtel shop. With Airtel, the smartphone network.
We bring you a fresh, well-researched program to help you identify opportunities for investment, job creation, growing your entrepreneurial skills, wealth creation, and social transformation.
We have a product that is ready for schools, supermarkets.
Create wealth, transform livelihoods. Every week, we showcase opportunities for creating new products and services.
I now harvest a lot of cocoa. When I harvest it, I sell. After selling, I put money in my project. I have 2 projects. 1 is for construction of my house, 2 is for educating my children.
Excellence in innovation, the passion and drive to succeed, and the right mindset to grow your business. Create wealth, transform livelihoods. Brought to you by Operation Wealth Creation.
Let me just send.
Yes.
Oh.
Accessing your contacts the old way.
Yeah.
Accessing your contacts with the My Airtel app. You have the power in your pocket. The power to access your favorite contacts right through the app. Unlock that power with the My Airtel app. Visit the App Store or Google Play now.
Get the most affordable 4G smartphone in Uganda from Airtel. Now heavily discounted from 250,000 shillings to 150,000 shillings only. Yes, 150,000 shillings only to keep you connected to your loved ones.
Dial *175*94# to activate free 1 GB instantly and 100% double data on all weekly and monthly bundles for 3 months. Get one today while stock lasts from the nearest Airtel shop. With Airtel, the smartphone network.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. Welcome to the newsreel. 3 minutes past 7 a.m. 28 minutes past 7. Rather, it is the 28th day of February 2023, the last day of the month as well. My name is Philomena Masco, and this morning I am joined by Felix Nkunda, and we're going to talk about something that everybody is talking about, the iron sheet scandal. We have had now the goats are also being dragged into it. And what's happening to the Karamoja sub-region? What accountability is there to show, especially when it comes to some of these items that were meant to be given as a relief to the Karamoja sub-region? Now, there is a lot that is happening, especially when it comes in from Parliament and all the ministers that are fully involved in whatever affairs happen in the Karamoja sub-region. Of course, if you've been keeping up with the news, you clearly know something about iron sheets, something about goats. But yes, probably maybe to give you quite a hint of what's happening. Now, members of Parliament from the Karamoja sub-region have already started, actually did start a process to censure the minister in charge of Karamoja affairs, that is Miss Mary Goreti Chitutu, over allegations of a diversion of relief items that were meant for the vulnerable people, especially in the northern eastern part of Uganda. In fact, the MPs went further ahead to submit to the offices of the Speaker and the Clerk of Parliament a notice of motion to censure. Of course, this is always the first step in the process of censuring a minister, as of course provided under Rule 109 of the Parliamentary Rules of Procedure. And many reasons, of course, have been fronted, but the main one here is being that the relief items that were meant to go to different families in the Karamoja sub-region have been diverted and actually have been divided among some of the top ministers. New details keep coming up, and just like you did see in our papers today in our dailies, clearly showing you that some of these relief items, for example, the iron sheets, were divided amongst ministers on WhatsApp. We did see some ministers come out to give accountability on what they supposedly used these iron sheets for. But also, still speaking of iron sheets, we do have the goods as well. We know that 25 billion Uganda shillings was dispersed for the purchase of these specific goods to different families in the Karamoja sub-region. Now, each family was supposed to be taken home 16 goats. And according to the details that are coming in, and more investigations are showing that some of these families walked away with 1 goat. Other families didn't actually get access to some of these goats. And also the prices for these specific goats were supposedly inflated between 500,000 Uganda shillings to 800,000 Ugandan shillings. And of course, it's also reported that some of these goats actually died, quite a big percentage of these goats. So there are very many questions that are not answered. It's no wonder that the parliamentary committee of members from the Karamoja sub-region are quite very mad and very bitter with some of these ministers. And we all don't know how to feel about this, but at least what we know is that we're not happy about what's happening, and we have very many questions. And maybe later on today we'll be joined by one member of parliament, of course, from the Karamoja sub-region, to tell us what is true, what is not, what is happening on ground, to give us the details and also state the facts in all of this scandal that has hit the office of the Prime Minister. Maybe we started from there. Felix, how do you feel about this?
Well, it's the normal. Are you surprised? Honestly, I've been listening to you all thinking that I've been saying what's surprising about this anyway? Actually, for any Ugandan who's surprised, you should be surprised about yourself being surprised. Not the reverse.
In fact, you should be disappointed in yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Philo. You should be disappointed in yourself for not knowing what happens in our lovely country. It's very sad because all this money accrued from a supplementary allocation that was majorly to assist in curbing and keeping in check the bad and terrible situation in the region of Karamoja. Surprisingly, relief in this country has now been narrowed down to, I think, a bonanza. No wonder they call it the iron sheet bonanza. I've seen some reporters call it that. But when all this is happening, what's in for us to pick? And that's what I've been seated here thinking. Like, what do we get out of all these things? Because they happen every day, every year, every regime. That's what I'm saying. What's new in this? Like my old man always says, there's nothing new in the news. So you don't wake up one day and say, this one there's nothing new that will come to the ears of man. Just like for some of us believers, we say, no news can shock God. And the man falls from his seat, says, Actually, no, it's normally we say no sin. There's nothing you're going to do that. No wonder the presence of penitence is alive in the Catholic Church. Now, having known that, this should give us, and this particular saga is unique in a way. The uniqueness, I think a day ago, I was listening to one of the radio political talk shows, and they were reading the list of the beneficiaries. And it sounded like it was like a minister's forum.
Yes.
I think they have a WhatsApp group because the Daily Monitor saying they shared it on WhatsApp.
On WhatsApp,
I think they have like a minister's WhatsApp group that someone shared. Hello guys, how are you? There's something like...
There's something here for you.
And then when you hear most of them talk about these iron sheets and how they talk about them, I have 300 at my home, me I got 200, me I got... Now, the big question is this. One, the iron sheets were purchased for a purpose.
Yes.
When they end up at your premises, and then you tell us you use them on your farm, probably there are some ministers who are kejongs and we don't know.
Probably
there could be beneficiaries and we don't know.
I'll be sharing a list of some of the ministers that did actually speak out and talking about where these iron sheets are. But on the list that I saw, Felix, I did not see almost anyone from there, but I'll be getting the list later on and sharing it with you.
You see, Philomena, when you look at such a challenge, you want to deal with it on a general spectrum of national decadency in terms of morality. As a country, we have failed, and this I say time and again, our failure to compose ourselves into a national standard that reflects values and beliefs of a country. We can never get away with this. The most painful thing, and I think at this point we need to stand and be corrected, some of the most privileged people in this country are politicians. Let's be honest about this. And I can back that up in one, the lifestyle that we pay for them, the cars they drive, how they live, just to mention but a few allowances, the opportunities that come with their jobs. But the most painful thing yet also is that these that are most privileged do not actually appreciate it. They don't appreciate the privileges that are given to them as politicians by Ugandans. Now, it would be, don't you think it, what would be the case if there's a local man somewhere in Karamoja who stole these iron sheets? What do you think would be happening right now?
Maybe before we actually continue, just to go through a list of the ministers that have all been dragged into these, some of the beneficiaries. We do have Moriku Kaduchu Joyce, we have Rebecca Kadaga, there is Jacob Obotho Both, there is Rukia Nakadama, Matia Kasaija, we have Chitutu Mary Goretti, we have Obua Dennis Hanson, we have Lugolobi Amos, and Bwino Chakudaga. This is the list of the beneficiaries. So if we were to say that there are some of them that are from that region, I mean, really, it doesn't really. Yes.
Their regions anyway. But there's one thing I would want to discuss this story. I would want to focus my aspect on national moral decadency and the analogy that happens in our languages. In Uganda, we have a saying that Chinyanja, I don't know if you've heard of it, which wachivunda chitandikira ku mutwe. Like, the whole debris of morality falls from the top. It can never come from down. The reverse is not definitely true. But what happens in scenarios like this, in normal circumstances and in abnormal circumstances? I'm avoiding myself to go personal against each of those individuals because probably they're still under, most of them are still under investigations. That's why we can't take them on individually. But if you have to look at the general aspect in appreciation of what actually happened, you'd want to question yourself that who checks the other? Do we have any forms of check? And that's the thing. The IGG has been here talking about auditing people, declaration and what. What is, like what, in terms of capacity building for fighting corruption, what do we have at play? The State House Anti-Corruption came out already, is doing a bit of investigation.
Yes.
Parliament has put in place a committee, I think select committee.
The members of Parliament from the Karamoja sub-region, and I mean they were the ones who are more vocal about this issue and, you know, pushing for the censure. And actually, the MP from Napak district was very bitter and mad. I thought these are part of the people who are supposed to be checking them. And they're really doing that for now. But my question, though, is, Felix, for how long has this been happening? If maybe the Parliament has, you know, awoken to this scandal, how many things have been happening behind there? Especially in this specific region, if we are to look at the performance of the ministers that have been put in charge of this region, why are they still looking at scandals like this?
Surprisingly, you see, the reason why the Bible talks about spare the rod and spare the child, there's something hidden in that. And I think our argument should supersede just these ministers. Who checks these people? It's a conversation you've been asking time and again. Well, as a minister, when you're given a JD and you don't execute it, who checks you? And that's what I've been saying time and again. The need to diffuse the direct interruption of politics and socio-economic administration in the country. There's a big need to diffuse that. But the politics has taken total control of everything. On how people will get medicine in hospitals, you'll find politics. You find politics, the government programs are here, parish development, all of them, politics. Now, in this, you can't diffuse the purpose of politics. And for you, any person who benefited from this, let's be honest, when do you ever ask the relevant questions? That's why, you see, people no longer respect these people.
Yes.
And it's not for anyone's cause. It is their own making. That's why I've told you, when you see them in sirens on roads, trying to be all pompy and looking flashy, And clearly that's for themselves and for their little egos, to massage their little egos. But that's what we have said time and again. What we see, the activities and the behavior of these kind of members of society is not what they should be earning. That's why you find Baba Siba Kubantu. They tie themselves on people. You must respect us. You cannot say that against a minister. How dare you say that? How dare you? And they, of course, they even attack the people in the media, ourselves.
Yes.
How can you say such a thing about a minister? How can you say such a thing about a minister?
It goes to question how much
respect
authority
should be
and power should is given to the people who are supposed to check.
They are concentrating on asserting themselves than actually earning this respect. Now, how do you come and tell me, a land person, and many Ugandans, just so you know, who are not vague. Some people are warm-hearted, warm-heated upstairs in terms of knowledge. You can't start doing such things and you don't expect people to talk about you. In fact, the disability now is being done by the judiciary to us and these other institutions if they're not doing their job. Because the failure of institutions to take action against such incidents, they're the ones who promote hate, disrespect. How do you tell these other cows? You've had cases about cows, these districts. How do you talk about absence of corruption when it is being direct presentation of their seniors? Last time I saw one of the ministers who has been categorically in a very famous corruption scandal here, talking about how he'd arrest people who are, it was laughable.
Yes.
But I don't know if he said it. Because
I mean, Felix, how many times have we seen ministers being summoned to Parliament to go and, go and face some of these specific parliamentary committees? Because in this case, for example, I know that one of the major roles and responsibilities of this Karamoja Sub-Region Parliamentary Committee is that they need to question people in charge of some of these items to ensure that items that are meant to go to Karamoja go to Karamoja. But how many ministers have we seen being summoned and they actually don't make any appearances even after they have been summoned over and over and over?
Ugandans know of a particular minister who is always apologizing in every commission or committee.
I mean, it's become a thing.
But this person is a seasoned minister, probably has been minister for the last 60 years.
For a major and huge ministry, by the way, that's very key.
I think for him it is a calling or it is a vocation, just as you see priests or nuns. People, and that's the agony. And at this point, we're asking ourselves, do we feel sorry for the head of state or sorry for the Ugandans? Who is being let out? Is it the appointing authority? Do we feel sorry for His Excellency, the President, or we feel sorry for the Ugandans? Because we have tired to blame the President, because we are blaming the President for people who are probably even older than him. We can't blame, you can't say every other wrong thing that happens in this is, no.
We can't even touch it to the President. The President is not going to drag the minister to go to Parliament.
And secondly, the President doesn't move with the brains of the minister. It's not like it's a pocket thing. No. You walk with your soberness, your authority, and your judgment. And we shall use those and how you execute them to judge you as well. Now, this thing of the iron sheets, between you and me, this whole war that has been happening in Karamoja, people have been dying. You remember that? We did stories here.
Yes.
People have been dropping dead.
People are actually feeding on leaves and seeds for survival.
People have been dropping. What do? Goats. You inflate the price. Which goat is 800,000 in Uganda?
And these are not exotic breeds, by the way. Between 500,000 Ugandan shillings to 800,000 Ugandan shillings.
I think people are going to get jerrycans and put ears there and they start telling us, a goat 800. Kari, you've passed away with that. Why don't you give the goats? You're supposed to get 16 goats. Why do you give them one goat?
And some families actually didn't get some of these goats. And a big chunk of them also died.
And these are the people who want us to give them way on our roads. Minister. We like. where like the beginning of everything is starting to crack down on us. But you know the challenge is, I've told you, the big friction between political administration and socio-economic administration. Because more relevance has been put to political administration, yet it should be put rather to socio-economic administration. Now, the absence of the checking bodies, because everyone is compromised at this point. The members of parliament from the region are going to make as much noise as they can.
Yes.
But what's to save?
What's done
I've
has
told
been
you,
already done.
Funny thing is that the hardest institution to steal from is government, because of the processes. The most painful thing is this about these old sagas.
It should be the hardest place to steal from.
It is.
It should
I'm
be the
telling
hardest. But with the frequent scandals we are seeing that are, you know, unraveling,
the challenge now to that, Phil, is what I said earlier. The political administration, because of the exaggerated need for political administration, have you heard of this? Have you heard of people when they start talking about the word minister? Everyone is. Either the people, these people who are challenging them are bold, because some of them are senior ministers that are alleged to have taken some of these things. The most painful thing is this about this government and its business. The process of corruption, the pre-process is very simple, but the post-process of finding fault is a lot of red tape. Yet it should be at the prevention level, not at the after. When you want to inquire into these people, there will be a commission, you have to write through this, the IGG. That is after something has gone wrong.
Yes.
But before, why don't we carry the red tape too, before, to assist us avert some of these things? We have a challenge as third world countries, and not only Uganda. When you go to countries like Nigeria, Philomena, you'll cry. You Ugandans are crying in Uganda, we say Mukabya Kajanja. You're crying. When you go to most of third world countries, they struggle with the clash of politics and administration, because most of the people who get into political positions do not have focus on socio-economic welfare. The focus is not on social, it's about how they keep themselves in those offices. Now, some people will tell you, some ministers were saying that they took some of the iron sheets to donate them to their constituencies.
And the question
again,
is
political administration vis-a-vis socio-economic welfare.
But then also that would lead to questions. These are relief items specifically meant for the Karamoja.
But because someone wants to impress,
what are they doing in Bunyoro?
That's what I'm saying. Because, Philomena, you have the need to impress your voters, political voters.
By stealing relief items from
I don't know. But that's I'm trying the justification that comes with political clashing, administration vis-a-vis. Now, imagine if this minister wasn't politically interested, where would they take the iron sheets?
Probably start a business. I don't know.
You get the point?
Yes.
But we need to have this discussion. And there's been lots of discussions into whether or not ministers should be members of parliament. Now we see the evidence to that rhetoric discussion. That probably we should now think about it. There's a conflict of interest. You've gotten Philomena from probably Kampala, and you've made her a minister of Karamoja. She has a mandate to the people of Karamoja and also the people in Kampala. How do you strike a balance? You're looking at millions of iron sheets there. But then in your constituency, people say, the people want to start up market somewhere.
Yes.
Fine, you want to, there's a clash. And you cannot entirely, because I know for a fact, you will not be shocked that none of the members of parliament, ministers who took these iron sheets, were going to use them personally. Most of them, I guess, were going to donate them or give them to use them for political support in their regions. I'm probably sure that was the reason. But why? Again, there's a political clash. This person is a member of parliament, supposed to have, he has mandate to represent some particular people. Later on, they also have mandate to support the people in another region. Now, you find that Honorable Minister
Chitutu.
No. Philomena Masiko.
Yes.
No one even knows you in Karamoja, but you're the minister.
Karamoja Affairs.
But also
the
member of
entire
parliament of
sub-region.
Kampala. You get the point? But no one even knows you. No one will even put you on hold. If the day His Excellency removes you, you'll go with your title. But the people in Kampala where you stand, probably it's your home area, you're born there or you're raised there or whatever. There's a clash. So shouldn't we probably revisit that discussion of ministers not being members of parliament?
Yes.
This whole thing of corruption, and you see, God is so good. God comes in at the best time to display. He saves the best for the last. Just the other week we were talking about this corruption scandal, and we told people, Ugandans, that the failure of us to curb the small challenges in corruption is going to manifest in bigger challenges. Hardly even a month away, hardly even 2 weeks or a fortnight away, here we are. In whose office?
The Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister's office.
Yes. We are still dealing with what is happening at NSSF. We're still dealing with some other issues. New scandals are opening
How
up.
do you deal with this? That is a big office. That is the leader of government, business. How do you explain that? In fact, I know for a fact that some of these people will lose their jobs. That one we know for a fact. They may be pretense, they may be what, you can hide, but some people are going to lose their jobs. Because there are things that are hard to explain.
Yes.
A particular Karamoja relief. What is it doing in Bunyoro? Since when did Kapchoro, whatever, become a sub-region in Bunyoro? And you see, some of the things we do are going to cause regional conflict. I've never seen, and when I stand to be corrected in Kampala, I've never seen a street child from the western part of Uganda, southwest or Bunyoro region. And I stand to be corrected. I've never seen a Byarugaba or maybe even in Kunda. They can use my name on the streets of Kampala. But you know, these kids, they come from the same region. This regional imbalance that we are promoting as politicians is not assisting national growth. Why do we think our regions deserve better than other regions? To the point that at some point, people even made a saying that you cannot wait for Karamoja to do it. Are you trying to activate that saying that was made? What do you have against the people in Karamoja? This is how uprisings start, phenomena. In the French, some of you who bothered to study foreign history, the French Revolution was sparked off by what? Wasn't it bread or something?
It was a whole huge, actually, economic crisis that had very many things that were attached to it.
Once you start marginalizing and oppressing people, that feeling can manifest in violence. It can manifest as a matter of violence. People treat different mannerisms or different behaviors differently. These things we see happening in this country and we don't give attention. One day they will burst on us. Like they say, we are sitting on a time bomb. Just 3 or 4, 5 people can cause a terrible uprising in a region. But how many people are going to lose lives because of 4 or 5 people?
Well, there is some feedback before maybe we continue, Felix, here. And there is a gentleman here, George, saying that we don't even need to give attention to whatever the MPs have to say. Proof has already been provided. We shouldn't along the process of holding them accountable. So in other words, we don't even need to, waste time and all of that. But I do have here another viewer saying the implementers of the relief should be accountable. And I mean, there is a chain of people in here, the people who manage the stores, the people who are supposed to be supervising some of these relief procedures and processes. Even the minister herself, the head of this specific ministry, this docket, they have a lot of talking to do. They have a lot of accountability that they have to give. And hopefully maybe now that the investigations have been, you know, officially launched into this scandal, I hope to hear what she has to say about it in detail. Because I remember when they did, the parliamentarians asked for a forensic audit into this whole scandal. The moment it had just opened up, she said it wasn't necessary. It wasn't really going to change quite a lot. She had a couple of other reasons. So with these investigations that are coming in, Felix, I really want to sit down and listen to what these different specific people have to say. I just hope that the right people ask the right questions.
Well, as one of my colleagues there said that we know, now we know. And I don't think what we know is far from the truth. There could be a bit of twist or what, but it's not very far from the truth.
Yes.
One. Two, I think this puts the leading government in a very terrible position to check itself, and that one we're not. That's without contradiction. There's a lot of checking that needs to be done. Soul searching is important.
Yes.
But
soul searching for the ministers and then everybody involved in it.
I'm telling you, this and the biggest challenge. I don't know about other African countries, but in Uganda, this whole I aspect of approach, nze, it has to be me. If not me, me. You can't. Now, there are some ministers, anyway, because we are doing a national broadcaster, some names I don't want to go past. I've been holding myself back for quite long, but it's sad that people don't have the sense of even the thrust of the smallest of humor to understand. And the worst bit is that the haves are not even shy to take more from the have-nots. That's why in political science there's an analogy that as the have-nots prepare to eat the haves, they will be challenged by the fact that they may be swallowed. Because the haves have the potential to swallow them. You've seen these tendencies that someone comes in a village and buys off all because he doesn't want noise. Or probably grabs the land.
Yes.
This, we thank God it has come to the media. But you know what has not come to the media?
It's quite a lot.
Imagine whoever saw the anarchists didn't actually.
But I mean, every other day, new details keep emerging. Felix,
look at
new names are being dragged
thing.
into this. Yes.
Imagine this whistleblower, we didn't get to know about this thing. You get to a point where you go into a whole department. Father, mother, sister, jaja, koja, senga, nyazara. What? Where are those people going to work? Just name the damn thing, Philomena Family Social Fund and whatever, then we know. You go to employment in government institutions. Some interviews allegedly are being done in particular languages. Just name the institution, a district, and we know. You go to some of these big, and this is the dilemma and pain that Ugandans are facing. You are struggling to pay tuition for kids to go to university, to think, and that's I think we are also. I feel sorry for us Ugandans who think that education. And it has been belittled. Education is no longer the tool to work with government institutions nowadays. The song has changed. People, you go to these authorities, you find a clan. These authorities, and there should be an inquest in any institution that has the word authority, higher corporation, those things that have a leaning to government, government corporation, government authority, those ones. You're struggling, you sell cows, you sell land, but if that's the pain. These are the things that we talk about every day that are making us lose the pride. Then in the morning you come and say, on the syllabus, we are putting patriotism. Who's going to study those things? Patriotism is a feeling we should be getting as we appreciate services that are given to us by our nation, not what you teach us. It should come with the things we see and learn on the streets every day. It should come with the beautiful rhetoric stories that are written in papers, acknowledging good performance of leaders. These are the things that make us love this country. But you can't be flipping papers every day, Philomena. Last week you had from the what is that airport? From the airport,
Yes,
Saga,
the airport.
you go to Uganda Airlines, then you go to NSSF, then you, and now Iron Sheets, then go from, next they are going to steal what? A message, then, like everything, before, everything. Where do you find the love for our beautiful country? Where is it?
Well,
so that after the other, there's a sequence of moral decadency in this country. But guess who's the patriot of all these? Our leaders, our mothers, our fathers. And that's the pain. It is so hard to live in this country when you don't have someone you know. But that's the useless thing. The reverse should be true. You should be happy to live in this country by virtue of being Ugandan.
Well, what's sad though, Felix, is that with all these that we are talking about, there is a bit of continuity. You would actually think that maybe corruption ends at this point, maybe tribalism ends at this point, maybe sectarianism ends at a certain point, but there is continuity. You will find even young people involved in all of this. And again, that goes to question who is actually sponsoring the continuity of this. Could it be maybe because they're desperate, because of the economic times, and they're thinking no one wants to really be the right person, no one wants to do the right thing. But there is a lot that is yet to come through, especially in terms of all these scandals. My only prayer, though, is that we don't let go of the scandals that we've been dealing with right now. I hope that we can multitask. We can handle this scandal, we handle the other scandal, we handle...
Sometimes it's
that
too
is
much,
why
Philomena.
I'm praying hard about that.
It's too
And we don't
much.
get overwhelmed.
You
Anyway,
can't deal with that and deal with the economic hardships. Then you deal with schools increasing school fees, and then the minister says you're not supposed to increase, and yet it does nothing when they increase. Now you're struggling, you know, like tukwataganya in Uganda we say you're holding this, your legs are holding, your teeth are holding, your nose is holding. You can't be holding your body. Our body is overstressed with situations.
well, we're looking at the Karamoja
What's going to happen next
relief
week? We can even
scandal.
predict.
Government and, of course, several members of parliament started inquiries into the iron sheet and goat scandal that hit the office of the Prime Minister just a couple of days ago. Of course, several names have been dragged into all of this. More details are emerging on how some of these items were supposedly shared amongst who and who and who. And what minister is saying what, all of these details, of course, will be giving you the updates as the investigations go by. And we are yet to see how this is going to actually end. It's Good Morning Uganda. We'll be looking at some of our daily papers as well, coming in from the Daily Nation and the Citizen. And starting off with the Daily Nation, looking at payback. Ruto takes on Uhuru. And staying put, former president says he will not retire from politics. And with just 2 weeks, of course, to the statutory deadline for his predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta, to leave active politics, President William Ruto and his Kenya Kwanza administration are not taking chances from a reversal of politics to revocation of appointments. The president seems to keep in rein in Uhuru. Men confront their demons at Mankev. Kenyan Power takes hit utility firm to incur further 6.5 billion Kenyan shillings loss on extension of tariff cut. Trade war puts DP in a spot, and court has no time for fair cases. That's the Daily Nation for you. That is the Daily Nation for you this morning. But also taking a look at the Citizen, why juggling of investment docket has been necessary. Ground handling firms in Zanzibar start cutting jobs. Tanzanian firm to supply Tesla with raw material in lucrative deal. And I won't tolerate infighting, Samia warns appointees. Well, grab yourself the Citizen, the Daily Nation, the New Vision and Daily Monitor this morning for the press review on the East African bloc. We're going for a break. When we get back, Mullen will be giving you more on weather and climate in that session. Good morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Let me just send.
Yes.
Oh. Accessing your contacts the old way.
Yeah.
Accessing your contacts with the My Airtel app. You have the power in your pocket. The power to access your favorite contacts right through the app. Unlock that power with the My Airtel app. Visit the App Store or Google Play now.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Ginger Tea drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
We bring you a fresh, well-researched program to help you identify opportunities for investment, job creation.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Yes, good morning, Uganda. If you're just joining us right now, we want to take a look at what is happening on the roads in terms of our traffic updates and take a look at which ones could be quite okay for you to use this morning. We'll be looking at mainly the Kampala-Jinja Highway, and that is where we're looking at most of the places right there. If you're joining onto that road, you do have a little bit of traffic starting to build up, especially as you come in from areas of Nakawa. If you're coming from Buya side, joining into the main highway, there is a bit of traffic right there. That could delay you for just a few minutes. But then again, looking at most areas as you join into, especially if you're coming from areas of Bugolobi, also the upper roads it looks like that is quite clear for you to use this morning, especially if you're joining into the Kampala-Jinja Highway. But elsewhere, if you're joining the city center, also looking at most of the roads right there being quite clear. If you're coming in from Lugogo, that looks to be a very clear road in terms of traffic indicated by the green lines. And we're also looking at also areas of Nakasero joining into the city center. That is quite indicating green lines, meaning that it is okay for you to use this morning if you're joining city center. Otherwise, also looking at areas of, if you're coming in from, that is Acacia side, Kololo side, you have a little bit of traffic building up, but then again, it does clear as you join into areas of Useful Railroad. That seems to be quite okay for you to use this morning. Now, away from that, we also want to take a look at the weather situation. We'll be tapping in from the satellites, that is the emitted satellites overlooking Uganda this morning. We're looking at that rainy system that started building up earlier, that is across the southwestern part of the country, that is already bringing in a little bit of rains towards most areas within southwestern Uganda, and that is likely to continue across the area for the rest of this morning. We also have one that is starting to develop across Lake Victoria, that is already bringing us cloudy conditions, especially across areas of that is the islands of Lake Victoria. We could be looking at rains as well spreading across Lake Victoria Basin. It looks like that system is still over there, and it continues to spread, especially also towards the central part of Uganda. So we could be looking at, again, another chilly morning for you, especially the southern half of the country. Now also, on a very good note, we also see another system building up for central northern Uganda. This is where we've had continuously sunny intervals across most areas, but this morning we're looking at the possibility of light rains coming through for areas of Gulu. We're looking at Kitgum, Padel, and that is where we're seeing those light green colors to the far north right there. That is indicating a possibility of rainy conditions over the central part of northern Uganda. We're also looking at mostly parts of central, that is areas of Buyende right now already having cloudy conditions developing. Now it looks like that could also bring in temperatures down for that part of the country this morning. Now more of the conditions are happening right now. We're looking at rainy weather for areas of Mbarara, that is all the way towards Kabale as well. We do have again other clouds building up for Fort Portal, so meaning that we could also be looking at rains later as the morning progresses. Mubende as well continuing to have mostly cloudy conditions building, but looks like those are only clearing away, so we could be looking at mostly intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. Much clouds though for right now. And also you look at Kampala right there, we do have quiet intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. There is that system that is building up, that is indicated by the red colors right there, as well as orange, that is heading mostly westwards, so most likely it will dump a few rains across areas of central Lake Victoria, that is Kampala, Wakiso, Mukono. But then again, that will be just over a few areas in smaller quantities. Otherwise, much more of the system is headed westwards, so Masaka, Rengo, Zimbabwe, we could be looking at more rains over that area. Otherwise, much of eastern Uganda as well as midwestern, Hoima, Masindi, Apache, we're looking at quite a sunny morning for you. And that will be across most places within that particular region. We'll go ahead and take a look at the forecast, and that is coming in from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority to also see the numbers in terms of the projected temperatures across the country for this morning. And we do know that at least we're having a little bit of cool down for the entire country. Generally, we're looking at reduced temperatures compared to what we've been dealing with at least for last week. Now, starting off with the western part of Lake Victoria, Masaka, Kalisizo, Zimbabwe and Rakai, we are forecasting isolated showers. Those will be across several places, starting off quite chilly at 23 degrees. And looking at the central parts of northern Uganda, that is Gulu, Adjumani, we're looking at Kitgum and Padel. Well, mostly we're going to have intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions for this morning. We do have rains in the forecast, but later on in the day, also temperatures are at 28 degrees. The central parts of Lake Victoria, Mukono, Kampala, and Entebbe, Wakiso, we have rains in the forecast that will be across a few places within the region, also starting off chilly at 23 degrees. And we're looking at the eastern side of the central, that is Ruero, Woblenzi, Nakaseke, as well as Buluri. We're looking at also isolated showers in the forecast for you. That will be coming in later as the day progresses, and a pleasant 26 degrees forecast over there. Well, eastern Uganda, we're looking at Soroti, Katakwi, we're looking at Amuria as well as Kumi. We have rains in the forecast over there. That will also come in as we cross over into the afternoon. Starting off quite warm, that will be at 28 degrees centigrade. And areas of the eastern parts of Lake Victoria, Tororo, Busia, Iganga and Jinja, we're forecasting rains. We do have also a chilly 25 for this morning. We're expecting that system will continue into the afternoon as well. Across Bale, Bududa, we're looking at Buko and Sironko. We're forecasting isolated showers. Those will also be across several places within that region, starting off with a chilly 25 degrees centigrade, and also later on that system might continue into the afternoon. Southwestern Uganda, where we have Mbarara, Ibanda, Bushenyi, as well as Rubirizi, we're looking at isolated showers also forecast, and that is already across the area. Already seeing those rains coming through, and that might continue for the entire morning, keeping temperatures down. The forecast indicates 23 degrees centigrade. Now, further from that, we also are looking at mostly extreme weather events going across the Greater Horn of Africa. And just recently, we have had a major visit from Jill Biden, that is the First Lady of the United States of America, who is in the Greater Horn of Africa, also for her tours in Africa. And yesterday, she did put more light on the fact that we have a climate crisis across East Africa, and that was during her visit to Kenya, where she did interact with a lot of community members, especially when it comes to how they can cope with the changing climate. Now, she did also put up a message through her Twitter handle saying that the Greater Horn of Africa has had a prolonged drought that has left communities with devastating consequences in its wake. And as the world, we have to come. It has become more connected, and we have seen hunger and violence, poverty, natural disasters that aren't contained by borders. Now, that is a message to show at least we do share a common enemy, and that is the climate crisis. But also more of what was raised by the community members is that their concern is about the fact that the richer nations, and that is the United States involved, have continued to fund most projects, especially when it comes to fossil fuels. Now, that is something that is coming across. And of course, you look at how we got there, how are we getting into the climate crisis. It means that people have continuously invested in fossil fuels. And of course, that puts a light on the US being one of the biggest emitters, and that is following China. So it is a huge responsibility that the US has to look out. And we do hope that this visit by the First Lady could also go a long way into delivering a message to the United States, especially when it comes to commitments that they have made in, coming to climate action. Now, one of those is giving a fund to developing countries that they pledged even at COP, that will be coming through at least $1 billion US that was promised, that will be coming in annually, especially now that we're talking about loss and damage for the people that have been affected by the crisis. And we'll look at the communities, especially in the northwestern part of Kenya, that have had to deal with prolonged drought. What are they doing in terms of making sure that that pledge comes across? And that is still a really big discussion going across, and still a message to a lot of these rich nations that have promised to help developing countries cope with a changing environment. Now, that is also aligned to a message that did come across also recently, and of course a report that was given out asking rich nations, asking developed countries to stop funding fossil fuels. And this is where we do have an issue, because we know that even the countries where you're extracting the fuel from actually need it. It boosts their economy. But then again, if you put a stop to some of these big companies that have been involved in funding them, what happens happens. How about the fact that even you look at one of the oil projects that are put in question right now, that is the EACOP. It's climate scientists have come out to express their concerns about the emissions in play. But recently we did see the Oil Change International looking at leading banks that have poured about $2.7 trillion into fossil fuels since the Paris Agreement. Now that has also put across fueling climate chaos, that is since 2015. And now they're saying we should stop financing fossil fuels. As the world grapes with the climate crisis at hand, climate change may not be at the top of people's minds, but also you look at the fact that the consequences that are now in their faces. Now, for decades, scientists have been warning that climate change is getting worse and that we have to start de-investing out of fossil fuels. But it looks like that is not a message that is going across, especially to top fuel companies. And year after year, scientists came together with the UN conferences. We're looking at the COPs as well, and countries also who ratified the agreement to the obligation that they will, put a legal framework to limit warming to 2 degrees Celsius, at least by the end of the century. But that is also beyond limit right now. We're looking at more catastrophic events, more impacts of climate change. And of course, this is where you'd have thought that millions of dollars would be going for renewable energy. Otherwise, to best that curve, to change that curve. But again, we see tons of billions that have been invested in fossil fuels, and that is where you look at most activists that have taken it to the streets to ask companies to take it upon themselves to stop the funding and actually divert that money into looking at renewable energy. Now, we know that 35 leading global banks have provided staggering US dollars of 2.7 trillions to fossil fuel companies since the Paris Agreement in 2015, and that is according to the Oil Change International. That is a company that is now bringing out statistics of how far we've gone and what could be looked at in terms of reducing this funding. Now, it's not only the funding that also puts everyone at, concern or the danger of getting more into fossil fuels, but many of the banks have also increased funding companies with the significant Arctic oil and gas reserves. Now, that means that we could be looking at more emissions of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, and of course that means that we have more carbon dioxide in there. We have more methane, henceforth trapping more heat into the atmosphere. We're going to be looking at more heat waves across the world. That is by the end of this century, if this curve does not go down. On the other hand, you also have the EU right now. Yesterday, there was a request coming in from Germany talking about the recent agreement that they came up with. According to the European Union, by 2035, they want to phase out all cars that use fossil fuels. And now Germany just came across saying that they need more time, they need at least that deadline to be extended. But now we're yet to find out whether with the sitting that came out from yesterday's report could actually reverse that agreement that was made earlier at the beginning of 2023, because now that will be putting them back on the drawing table again. We do hope that that is not the case, because we need to phase out most of these companies that are actually using fossil fuels and invest in renewable energy. It is that simple. And we've seen billionaires coming out. I mean, Elon Musk was the first to come out to say that he's willing to take Tesla to basically electric cars by 2035. So most of the people are actually picking up on that. Now, to see companies getting us back into that road, that is something that is really worrying. And of course, we do know that at least even as we speak right now, we are off the way to keeping temperatures to well below 2 degrees centigrade. So if you're already crying of the heat waves that, was recently in Uganda, imagine that doubling. And that is, we're talking about very catastrophic events also happening involved with the heat wave. Then you have the flooding, then you have all this prolonged drought that we're already dealing with as East Africa. That could be catastrophic, which is why people are saying, bring in the climate action. We need actions, not just agreements on paper. Well, that is it for this morning, and we'll be having Good Morning Uganda agenda coming up for more discussion as well. Later than that, we'll be getting into the sports highlights as well as Good Morning Uganda Extra that does come after that. My name is Mollen Kenyana. I want to wish you a wonderful Tuesday.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Gatawo with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial star 165 star 5 star 3 hash to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
We bring you a fresh, well-researched program to help you identify opportunities for investment, job creation, growing your entrepreneurial skills, wealth creation, and social transformation.
We have a product that is ready for schools, supermarkets.
Create wealth, transform livelihoods. Every week we showcase opportunities for creating new products and services.
I now harvest a lot of cocoa. When I harvest it, I sell. After selling, I put money in my project. I have 2 projects. One is for construction of my house. 2 is for educating my children.
Excellence in innovation, the passion and drive to succeed, and the right mindset to grow your business. Create wealth, transform livelihoods. Brought to you by Operation Wealth Creation.
Welcome to English in a Minute. 50 years ago, the first humans stepped foot on the moon. But has anyone ever jumped over the moon?
Jonathan, guess what? My book is nominated for North American Wildlife Pop-Up Book for First Time Writers Prize.
Oh, wow. You must be over the moon.
I am, Jonathan. I could not be happier.
What was the name of that prize again?
To be over the moon means to be extremely happy about something. This expression likely comes from a short children's poem from the 16th century called Hey Diddle Diddle. But we don't really know why over the moon came to mean what it does today. And that's English in a minute. Welcome to English in a minute. Speed is how fast something moves. Maybe this expression has something to do with car racing.
Jonathan, did you get a dog?
No, I'm just watching Ashley's dog this weekend, so I'm getting up to speed on basic dog care.
Oh dear.
What?
Look, her dog can be a little unusual.
It's just a dog, right?
If you get up to speed, you learn information that is necessary to do something. Sometimes you need to get up to speed to know as much as someone else. Think of it as an information race. And that's English in a minute.
Deeper conversation.
How many teachers in Uganda did you consult? But there's a mistake we are making. Which is good. Which is good. We went to this school, we went to Western, we went to Northern, we went to Uganda. That's an achievement.
Objective and non-partisan.
Honorable Minister, there are a number of points. I want to start with you.
Straight from the hearts of open-minded men and women.
Money tends to move faster at night. So when people are not counting,
don't take it for granted.
Candid and authentic.
Because Uganda is not Thailand.
That's not correct, and we should stop that kind of mentality.
So what I'm saying is
a quick question. Don't answer.
I'm not getting into that.
Speak more.
I think that's where we are beginning to have a problem.
I think what is going to kill the parish model are all the misconceptions on how it's supposed to run.
I know that the Prime Minister is listening.
Behind the headlines.
Charles, let us agree. We liberalize the economy. We are several nations put it together. Why don't you appreciate that? What if it fails? I'm happy. I'm a good lawyer because Amin is not in power.
The Parish Development Committee is functional. It is there. That there is a parish chief, that the beneficiary is there.
So we look at expenditure. We don't look at revenue. And that is the challenge we are giving them from Minister of Finance.
Your fountain of new knowledge, flowing into the mass body of knowledge.
First get the knowledge of Bukedia, how they want to be modernized.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
You return money to the treasury, which is made for the people.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
We bring you a fresh, well-researched program to help you identify opportunities for investment, job creation, growing your entrepreneurial skills, wealth creation, and social transformation.
We have a product that is ready for schools, supermarkets.
Create wealth, transform livelihoods. Every week, we showcase opportunities for creating new products and services.
I now harvest a lot of cocoa. When I harvest it, I sell. After selling, I put money in my project. I have two projects. One is for construction of my house. Two is for educating my children.
Excellence in innovation, the passion and drive to succeed, and the right mindset to grow your business. Create wealth, transform livelihoods. Brought to you by Operation Wealth Creation.
Certainly it would have made his famous father proud. And the 18-year-old Gambian left foot on the left foot. Oh! Oh my God! The penalty area.
Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. Welcome to the GMU Agenda, 11 minutes past 8 a.m., 28th of February. The year is 2023. My name is Philomena Masco. Of course, with the gentlemen Felix Nkunda and Robert Chirabo Nyunyintono this morning. And you don't want to be called a gentleman?
Well, to be called land.
No, come on.
I know.
I
know Felix. I know Felix wouldn't want that.
No.
Well, there is a lot really, but we will deal with that. We'll deal with that. But anyway, today again, we are here to talk about issues of national importance, having conversations that really matter in the wee hours or in the morning hours of the day, economical or political or social. This morning, I think we're going to be taking more at the economical front, looking at a business, looking at our bilateral cooperations we have with different countries. Now, speaking of which, we know that as we speak right now, we have the Uganda-South Africa Business Forum that is going on and being hosted in South Africa. We already have our very own Ugandan delegates who are there, but of course, even the head of the country, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, from what I understand, has actually, he's already there. Today he made an appearance. This summit actually started on the 27th, right, Robert? Yes, it started on the 27th, but serious business is expected to go down. Today, of course, having our very own president make an appearance. And there is a lot, of course, information that we will be getting from all of this. But of course, more details on the summit is what we expect to know. And I know, Robert, that you're part of the protocol. All right. Maybe right from me at home.
It's part of the
yes, the protocol. And he's here to give us more details on the summit. What's happening in South Africa here, Robert? Yes, Felix.
Well,
you need, you're hanging out to the big wigs.
I take it in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Well, maybe I'll just start by giving a background to this summit. Now, government of Uganda has taken strides to ensure that it creates market for Ugandans, it creates market for other countries to know what we can trade with them, what we can benefit from bilateral relations. Now, government of Uganda, working with the private sector foundation, has been organizing a number of summits. For example, government of Uganda, through Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Trade and Industries, and other ministries in that have organized. We once had the business summit in Vietnam, organized by government of Uganda and the business community in Uganda and those in Vietnam. So what happens is private sector foundation, a body that brings together a number of people in the private sector.
Yes.
Depending, we have the big, the micro. So they carry out this organization and they make sure that the people in business in Uganda meet with the Ugandans first in these countries, but also they bring other business counterparts in this country. It's all about meeting, you know, letting them know what you're doing.
Yes.
Letting those people know the business opportunities in that country, the Ugandans know of business, and the people in that country know of the business opportunities in Uganda. So we've had the Vietnam, we've had the USA, we've had the Rwanda, we've had the Burundi, we've had Tanzania, and now it is South Africa, where Ugandans in South Africa in business, where we have over 500,000 Ugandans living and working in South Africa. these in business are going to be at this summit. We are going to have Ugandans, they already left. That's why we say it's open on the 27th, because Ugandans that left and went, arrived on the 27th. There was some bit of welcoming meeting, organizing themselves. So Ugandans are going to meet with those in South Africa. But how unique this particular one is that they are going to meet heads of states. Yoweri Kaguta Museveni's Excellency.
Yes.
We expect Cyril Ramaphosa or a representation of Cyril Ramaphosa, and they are meeting with key government agencies. So it's not only these people meeting and talking, I do this, sharing notes, selling their businesses to the world, but they also handle issues that are encumbrances to trade. For example, Ugandan Business Committee will tell you, have issues with the South African visa. I'm told, sneaking into one of the issues they want to discuss.
Okay.
How easy, how friendly do they make it? Uganda is South Africa's 15th largest trading partner on this continent. South Africa imports coffee from another country. Uganda has the best coffee on the African continent, and it's leading there. So how do we see the opportunities we have, but how do we remove these trade barriers? So that is, and also the traders in South Africa are now going to tell our government issues, say immigration, the challenges they find in businesses. So now they have an opportunity to present their issues forward and say, we want to do business with Uganda.
Yes.
But these are the challenges we face doing business with Uganda. How do you help us remove them? Ugandans will say, we want to do business with South Africa, but these are challenges. How does the South African government remove them? I'll give you an example. The last summit they had in Tanzania, you remember when we had good results of our sugar?
Yes.
They sat on table and said, no, we have surplus. You've said this, you only allow this amount of sugar from Uganda. How do we remove this barrier so that we have more sugar? When we had this eggs of Kenya, they sat and said, we're in the East African community.
The entire poultry.
Yeah, so these summits not only bring markets, but they also remove some of the barriers, because you're meeting the people in business speaking to the powers that be or authorities.
Okay. Well, still speaking of the summit, its overarching objective is actually to provide a platform for the private sector, government, and also business regulatory agencies to freely exchange their views, their ideas. It's no wonder that we have quite a list of some of these government bodies, regulatory authorities, and looking at different sectors. Again, among some of these sectors that they will be, drawing their attention to, we do have tourism, trade and investment, we have finance, insurance, we do have professional service in their manufacturing, mining, energy resources, agro-processing, ICT, power generation, education, and infrastructure development or construction, among others. Now, these are some of the sectors that probably this summit will be looking into having discussions about and seeing how we can each contribute to each other, or how we can benefit from all of this. Speaking of benefiting, Felix, I mean, from what Robert has said, we've had a couple of summits with different countries. My question here is that Uganda as a country, have we actually tapped enough? Have we gotten any potential out of the summits that we have brought to our own playbook, looking at what we are engaging in, looking at the industries we are looking at, or looking at, we recently started the oil, oil mining, which is such a big hit. I mean, have we tapped into the potential that has been availed to us through these summits?
Well, it goes beyond our need to tap into the potential, but rather also, Philomena, to make true conclusive assertion of what we are willing to offer for these partnerships. In fact, when I see the establishment of these interstate business forums, for me the latter lingers in my mind is, what are we to offer? You see, a partnership is and this is the true definition, even you want to take it economically or with the business line. A partnership is an agreement where people come together, but both of them agree to make something as an offering, let alone also acceptance for each of the party. It's a win-win. There must be an aspect of win-win. When he talks about the issue of coffee, if that's what we have to offer to this partnership, then it makes us a relevant member of the partnership. However, how ready, and this is the biggest challenge. Most of you saw the one that was in Dubai, I think a couple of months ago.
Yes.
There was an expo. Then there's all these things. His Excellency went and met a number of dignitaries there. He did talk about, we had one also with Tanzania in particular. There was one that also, we appreciate that also the sidelines of the summit in the US, there was something related to that. In the UK, we saw the same. But all these can only be sensible and meaningful if we have something to offer. Now that brings us back here, as the forums happen wherever they are happening and the partnerships wherever they are happening, how prepared or how has government prepared its own population and the numbers to make sense out of these partnerships? Because at the end of the day, we may be in a situation where we are the only ones who are being used for the partnerships. For example, I'll tell you, a couple of weeks ago, I was down in South, and one of the things I noticed that Kenyans don't need visas to go to. Ruto had an agreement with it led the government, and they agreed that Kenyans don't need that. They just need to prove identification. Yes. And then you don't need a visa. You to get a visa to go to South Africa today, I will tell you, is one of the most heftiest things.
As a Ugandan.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, the reluctancy of government to move towards eliminating such barriers is what will defeat the purpose of these so-called partnerships and forums. The thorough existence of the continued barriers. For example, what can we trade with South Africa? Away from, and the Ugandan community in South Africa is quite big. But do you know what they do?
Sangomas.
I don't want to say that, but do you know what they are known for? Is that what we are trading? They are there and they have made money. You see most of them, December, end of years, they come and there's a lot of, but what do they do?
Their sources of income are
identity.
Yes.
Do they have an, though I've met very successful doctors, surprisingly, in South Africa, medical doctors. I know one very, very rich man. But what do we have to trade? Even before we go for the summits, how ready are we? Because the other parties are ready. And they definitely exploit the partnerships, but how ready are Ugandans? When you come into the discussion of value addition, have we concretized that here before we go into such partnerships? Look at government programs that are directly bidding to assist Ugandans to grow from one sector, from one level of production to value addition to probably also branding and what. How far have we gone with that? And we can look at the smallest. Start with some of the things that we own as a country. Let's look at tourism. What's in for us to tap when we go for such partnerships? How have we organized our tourism sector to make sense out of these so-called forums and conventions and whatever? Let's come to the agricultural sector. Have we supported our wananchi enough to have them come make a bargain? If today we said, if South Africa said, okay, we want you to supply us 10 tons of coffee every day. Capacity building. These forums are good. You go for these conventions, but they are good. But how? I think it should start with how ready are our people. Mzee will go and negotiate everything, but there's a time here we had a big, not even once, many deals have come here from such negotiations. The Arabs wanted, I think, about 40 tons of meat a day. Can you afford? Can you afford?
When you have an abattoir that was opened up along Bombo Road and it closed after some time.
But the functionality of that abattoir was questionable. And
no, but do you know the reasons? It's about political challenges.
Yes.
Politicians came in, politicians, hungry hyenas, they are always there waiting. What? But that abattoir was a multi-billion project.
Yes, investment.
That a Muslim brought from somewhere and was interested in adding value.
A lot of money there. Yes. Remember even the first cows, the first 100 to be slaughtered are coming from HE's farm, and we thought it's going to move very forward.
Now, before you run to make these conventions and excite yourselves here, how have you built capacity for your people to make them have a relevant contribution to these partnerships?
If they woke up one day and they said, we want milk, okay, we have got a deal. South Africa wants you to provide us with 20 tons of milk on a daily. How many people can? People are, when it comes to farmers, look at the challenge of maize. Kenya accepted to buy the maize. You remember, because it was suffering, I think, from that, the famine challenge.
They have a very serious drought, now, and they can eat anything available.
They accepted to buy, but have you built capacity for your people to be able to supply the maize? Someone in China Mukaka, in Chiliandongo, Kenya. How do they access the Kenyan market?
Actually, what is happening
because it is not good enough for Kenya to say
farmers are remaining a bit poor, and the middleman is getting so much.
That's the thing. How do you transit from Chirabo, from Chiliandongo, to access the South African market? Capacity building. These conventions don't excite me, with due respect. Because the people who are in attendance also are questioning.
Yes. There are representatives of the entire business community, at least from what they're saying.
Anyway,
and also,
that is good for PR.
I must say,
but lastly, Robert, just lastly, let me say this. These conventions will yield more if we are ready to take up the opportunities that come out with these bilateral engagements. But they will be good for news. As I've told you again, there are some stories that make good headlines. As the way Philomena introduced it here, imagine you are reading it in a bulletin. Today in the 8 o'clock news, His Excellency the President will be in South Africa meeting his counterpart, and that is it. But I'm questioning you, Chirabo, a farmer in Chiliandongo. You have 4 acres of maize. Has government built capacity for you to directly tap in that opportunity His Excellency has looked for? I give an example. Kenya said, we want maize, we want maize. Someone in Wuyikwe, how do you tap in that? How do you get to benefit from? So these business bilaterals, multilaterals are definitely, and government has, and the president will do his duty. For him, he will bring, but as a nation, do we have one, sensitization? Do our people have the right knowledge? One time, how many times have our products been rejected because of simple issues? They are toxic, but no storage, okay, transportation. You find someone, do you see how they transport cows in Uganda? The tail is in the front, the horns are there, the person transporting is sitting on the cow. All these things. We must build capacity. Now, a person who wants to give you a contract, probably from Israel, comes and asks, how do you transport cows from wherever to the abattoirs? And that is how you transport, because that also alone affects probably the standards.
The quality of the meat.
Look at the pesticides on the market. Time and again, we have been fighting with these people of standards. Now, you remember the story, even some people, after you have wrong pesticides on the market, but you want to sell your product to a country that has capacity building is one of the big, before we rush to some of these summits, let's assist our people in relative production, in formidable production, to have an elevated stature in terms of discussing their approach towards these bilateral, multilateral conferences.
Well, look for the matter of clarity. Uganda's exports to South Africa actually stood at about 11.41 million US dollars. That was back in 2020, according to the United Nations Comtrade database on international trade. But also, Robert, I know that one of the key things, one of the key, end results that are being looked at the end of this summit is to make sure that we can be able to convince quite a number or a larger number of investors from South Africa here in Uganda. But when you look at our investment industry here in Uganda, do you think we've done a lot to cater to the possible or would-be investors, and not just only curtailing it to South Africa, but even very many other countries? I do believe that as a country, as an economy, we are directing our eyes at different, countries to come and invest here. But do you think we have created a favorable and objective investment environment for, these possible investors?
Well, a quick one before I go to that.
Yes.
Looking at how Uganda, we are preparing ourselves in these bilateral relations that we open up. One, for Ugandans in South Africa, they have what they call the Federation of Uganda Businesses in South Africa, where they make sure they register their businesses, they lift each other, they get to the laws of the land, international accreditations, and their chairperson happens to be, that is Philip Kakuru, who they are doing a great work there. Now, back home here, Uganda, through the Private Sector Foundation, is trying to organize the business community in Uganda to register their businesses. They give them sensitization. They are trying to build each business
independently
to see that it can meet and be able to compete internationally. Now, where the farmer comes in, then briefly Felix talked about agriculture, and I love that he's very passionate about that. Still, we are seeing a number of organizations that are coming in, or funds. When we look at the parish development model, for example, this is something, pillar one, which is production, that if implemented very well, you see that government is trying to see how do we help these people in the non-economic market build up to be able to fit, so that when a registered company comes, it can work with this certain farmer group. That's why we are seeing a bit of cooperatives being rejuvenated. But now going to the industrial or investment question.
Yes.
One would say, actually, that government of Uganda, for me, I feel it has even over-opened up for foreign investors. In the East African community, Uganda may be the only country where any investor would feel very comfortable if they are to compete to come and invest. One, peace and security. That an investor is guaranteed, you're not starting your business today and tomorrow guns are shooting, and you have to pack and go. Three, we have so much that Uganda Investment Authority has put as factors that attract investors. In Uganda, an investor gets free land. Let's talk about the tax holidays. You know, you're going to an area already cleared for you with the electricity, with the roads, come and invest. Then, very important with Uganda, repatriation of profits. In South Africa, that we are talking about, now I'm looking at attracting investors.
Yes.
Can I
I mean, the amenities,
no, let me just
the amenities are actually there.
About.
Yes.
The question was attracting investors.
Yes.
So I talked about profit repatriation. Go to South Africa. Not so much can you bring home.
Are these good things? I'm just trying to. That's what actually.
We are looking
are these
at
good things.
That's why I said that actually for investors, foreign investors.
Our discussion is about Ugandans. Is this good for Ugandans, really?
That's why I said.
If we are looking at investors who are coming
in, not for Ugandans here. If you got it right. So I began by telling you we've kind of even over-opened.
Yes.
You know, so we are very fertile and very interesting ground for any investor to come and invest here. If that profits the country, that is another subject. But looking at any investor saying, I'm going to do business in Uganda, where you're going to have this tax holidays,
real genuine business that is going
that are given to you. You have a one-stop center, Uganda Investment Authority. Some investors even are privileged to personal security. You can take the money you've made back to your country, profit repatriation. So it is so attractive.
And I
if that
understand,
works
Robert,
for Ugandans, I'm quick to add.
Yes, I understand what you're saying, Robert. I know Felix's issue here would be is that we have really made it extremely too comfortable for the would-be investors, even those who come disguised as investors, and they misuse the amenities that have been readily availed to them.
Robert
all in the name of the
investors.
investors.
I don't know if you even heard it when he said
the repatriation.
No, the first point he said, place is so peaceful, security. Then at the last of it, the last point he said was, they also get security.
Not because they're insecure. That's why I said it. I said it in the quotes.
No, it is hilarious.
Feeling because let me tell you, in Uganda here, I don't want to mention names of investors. Some are even hosted here on TV.
Yes.
Oh Jesus!
You're pushing the person out. You see a military person or what, and you're like. Maybe these are some of the things to make them feel.
I just like that. But
that's not because they're insecure.
If you want me to pick it from what Robert said, Philomena, you know, we need to stop looking at these things from one side of the coin. We need to appreciate that in every other thing we do, as government, as Ugandans, it must primarily benefit Ugandans, and we should never change that position. Never should we.
Beneficiaries, yes.
Should be Ugandans.
Yes.
We can't sit here even and this. Anyway, I like the fact that he didn't acknowledge it being here. And this is why we go for some summits like this, or conventions or forums or whatever, to try and hook up something for our people. You get the point. But that's why I think earlier on, we can, and the reason why government, by the way, sometimes you feel for it, why it puts all those incentives is for the same spirit. Because of the big need. Like, you remember when this place was being started up, just being started, the Nama Industrial Park.
Yes.
You can imagine how much we had to lose as a country. Yeah. Or we are still losing as a country. But how many per employed in that park? Could be over 50,000 people, directly and indirectly. You go to Mukono, that stretch where we have lots of Chinese, I think, I don't know about Chibule was quite part, that side. Now you go to Tororo, go to Mboro, I think.
They're opening up a number
of different regions.
Lots of industrial.
Yes, parks.
But the big question is this. As we are losing all these things, the tax we should be collecting, the land, and what are we? Do we see the relevance? And this should be the pushing factor for us to go ahead and get into some bilaterals. What can we provide? For me, my biggest issue, and I'll say to you, Philomena, lastly, we must prepare our people to have marketable, valueful, or with value, rather, something to sell that is of value. Every time our population is valueless, if that works, or it has no value, it is as good as useless. That even when the opportunities are brought here, we shall not benefit because we have a population that doesn't have value. It has nothing to offer.
Yes.
And this also cuts across. Here also is key. You can have a population that is equally without value upstairs. That even when they're not employable. This run back to the things we are discussing every day. What are people learning? South Africa has brought here a multi-billion income.
Look at the MTNs
Can they employ a Ugandan?
It fits in right with the whole demand and supply thing. If
how
is in demand in South Africa,
the big man is going to fish, but who can work on the fish after? Who will move the gills, dissect, cook, serve, and later on people eat? So it's as good as useless for you to make as many fish as you can, but how ready? That means we must be intentional in our policies that yield what we call value for our populations, but later on also, and that's why we have been talking about this issue of syllabi. We must equally be academically intentional on how we affix ourselves and position ourselves. He talked about it. I'm yet to see a CEO for some of these international coming from Uganda.
Actually, one of the things that, sorry to chip in, that government has now done, and I think over time we feel we've built capacity. This is what they're doing. Now, for some of these investments, they are ring fencing some jobs. They say this amount of people must be Ugandans, these particular jobs must be for Ugandans, or you subcontract. A foreign company works with a Ugandan company. And the other thing now government is saying, they give these technocrats a period of time, and they tell you if you're coming in for the next 5 years, you must have taught Ugandans to take over. Look what's happening in the oil sector. Most of these contracts, they give you, you come in, a foreign company, but they're giving you a spell of time.
Absolutely.
And you must have taught
and that's the way to go.
Ugandans.
Now that limits what he said earlier, the repatriation of profit. I know of a company here, I know of a hotel where an askari is a foreign person, a cleaner. How do you import someone to clean?
Only one hotel that actually
who can't clean in Uganda?
Very many of them around where you find that most of the people taking on the layman jobs in
Honestly,
these companies
who can't
are
keep
actually
a gate?
foreigners, and you're wondering what happens to the
Now these are what they're
Ugandans.
Opening, closing, opening, closing, opening,
Actually, there was a
closing.
time we had these
I need to bring an expert to
working
open
on
the
roads.
gate and close it.
When you had drivers that were driving, what are they called? Trucks, something like that.
How do you bring someone from Italy?
In Japan, China, to drive us,
You bring someone to clean in
well,
Uganda.
we are looking at bilateral cooperation. And, of course, this is in light of the summit, the Uganda-South Africa summit that is going on right now. And we are looking at heads of states. We are looking at special delegates coming in from Uganda that are already in South Africa, being hosted by the president of South Africa, Honorable Cyril Ramaphosa, and they're there to talk about business. How can they improve the business cooperation between the two countries? How do we get to tap into each other's economies? What do they need that we can supply? What do we need that they can supply? How do we get to grow our investment bracket for them to come in, and probably for Ugandans as well to get into South Africa? All of that obviously is going down there in South Africa. Our president is also there representing, and we are hoping for the best of the best to come out of the summit. And of course, as it goes on, it did start on the 27th, like I did say earlier on, but today, like Robert actually informed me, serious business will be going down, and as the day goes by, of course, we'll be getting more updates, and obviously you'll be getting them here from here on UBC TV. Well, as we sign out, I don't know, what are your final shots on these? Anything that we should be expecting specifically, Robert, from this summit that we should get excited about, amongst other things, aside from the eye-opening remarks that have come in from Felix and yourself? But what do we excite ourselves about, especially from this summit?
First, life has taught me that opportunity comes to those that are prepared. If you're not prepared,
the opportunity goes by, yes.
Uganda business community will miss the opportunity. But one thing I'm sure is this interaction between the business community in Uganda and the business community in South Africa will yield some connections, people will get more opportunities. But also, I'm very optimistic that there are trade barriers that are going to be discussed here, and we may get a leeway. More so issues with the South African visa.
Yes.
That most of the traders, the business community in Uganda has expressed a lot of complaints regarding it. So we hope we have tangible, you can't have two heads of states talking and discussing, and we don't come to a conclusion. The other summits have yielded great, and I hope this will also do.
Well, it's Good Morning Uganda. We will leave it at that, but we do have GMU Extra coming in, and don't forget Ruben Mpima Chibirango will be in there for the sports updates. Have a wonderful Tuesday. I am Philomena Masco. Good morning.